Hello, you're listening to the Armwood Opinion channel here on YouTube, and today we're talking about the fact that the United States has been keeping children in concentration camps in various places around the country. These children are the children of asylum seekers. These kids came to the country legally under United States law and under treaties signed by the United States, which allows refugees to seek asylum in the countries which are signatories to these treaties and under American law. The Trump administration, in its admitted attempts to deter people from coming to the United States, has been putting them in concentration camps, having these kids sleep on stone floors, without toothbrushes, without decent food, for weeks. The most that they are allowed to stay in any facility is 72 hours under U.S. law, and they have been there upwards of around a month. This horrendous condition, unfortunately, is not new to the United States. And some of you who may question whether they're being kept in concentration camps obviously have not taken time to read the dictionary definition of what a concentration camp is. A lot of lazy people out there. Concentration camp, according to Webster's dictionary, is a place where large numbers of people, such as prisoners of war, political prisoners, refugees, or members of ethnic or religious minorities, are detained or confined under armed guard. These kids being held under armed guard, who are refugees from Central America, are a central case example of people being held in a concentration camp. This is not the first time the United States has done this. It's done it repeatedly in its history to Native Americans, to Africans held as slaves, to Japanese in World War II, and to these kids. In fact, these kids are being held in one of the same camps that Japanese were held during World War II, and that Geronimo was held previously, the Native American leader. This is as American as apple pie. It's as cruel as apple pie. It's a violation of international law, American law, and human rights. And Americans need to be in the streets protesting it. The Trump administration continues to violate the law, and the Democratic leadership refuses to do its constitutional duty, which is impeach this criminal. This is horrendous. The Democratic leadership has abdicated its responsibility, seeking its own benefit. It is selfishly looking out for itself and not its constituents. They need to go. They need to be removed. Nancy Pelosi needs to be thrown out on her heels. She needs to retire. She's useless. She's no good. She's going to go down in history as one of the worst Democratic leaders in the House of Representatives that we have ever had, because she refuses to do her job. Trump has committed numerous crimes, and because of her selfishness, self-interest, she is lying to the American public and refusing to do her duty. She said when the Mueller report was coming out that we look at impeachment, and she's refused to do it once the Mueller report came out and showed at least 10 counts of obstruction. That's all they were looking at, was obstruction and conspiracy with the Russians. That's all. But there have been tons of other crimes that she had a duty to look at, with not an impeachment inquiry, but an impeachment proceedings. Mueller gave the evidence. There's no need for an inquiry. This is another dishonest tactic by Pelosi. The investigation has been done. The hearings on impeachment would inform the American public and change the polls. I saw this happen with Nixon. I've been around a long time. I'm not as young as I look. I may not look young to you, but I always get told this. Yeah, I remember the Nixon proceedings very, very well. It got to the point where there was a bipartisan demand that he be impeached. And as a result of a visit by conservative leader and racist Barry Goldwater, he resigned. I'm not saying Trump will resign, but he needs to be impeached by the House of Representatives, and then the Democrats, if he's not removed by the Senate, can run against the Senate for being lawless and refusing to honor their constitutional duty. So they have a great campaign, but they can't run on it unless Nancy Pelosi does her job. The last I heard, 72 Democrats and 1 Republican congressman have come out for impeachment. And the reports are that a lot more Democrats support it, but they don't want to go against the leadership. This is a shame. Children are suffering, sleeping on cement floors. Yes, it's Trump's fault, but it's also Nancy Pelosi's fault, because he wouldn't be able to do this without Democrats not, doing something about it. And understand, those of you who voted for Trump, you knew who he was. In his opening salvo in the campaign, when he came down the elevator, he called Mexicans criminals, rapists, and all sorts of other names. His racism was out in the open, and a lot of Americans chose to vote for him anyway. Understand, good people don't vote for an out and out admitted racist. Plain and simple. They don't do it. If you voted for Trump, you are not a good person. You need to repent of your evil and press your Congress people to impeach Trump, because you're a bad person. You owe America, you owe those kids who are being held in concentration camps, and you owe yourself to change your evil ways, as Carlos Santana put it back in the late 1960s in his wonderful album. You need to change your evil ways. We must come together as a nation and throw these criminals out of office. I keep on saying it. I keep on repeating myself about this issue, and I am going to until we do the job that we as Americans are supposed to do. Trump must go. We must resist. We cannot not allow our resistance to be futile, because resistance is not futile when we continue to press. We can and will win. What's going on and has been going on since January 20th, 2017 has been a horror show. But understand, this horror show has happened before. Remember America's history of slavery, America's history of stealing the land from the Native Americans, calling people from the Americas Indians. They weren't even, they were from the shores of what we now call North America. They had their own countries, their own nations. They had their own names. They were called outside of their names. They were hoarded, they were killed, they were murdered. Andrew Jackson and his troops gave them poison blankets as they marched them from Georgia and Carolina and North and South Carolina to Oklahoma during the infamous Trail of Tears. They gave them blankets with smallpox. This is only a small group of the thousands and hundreds of thousands who were murdered by European settlers. Between 6 and 10 million slaves died crossing the Atlantic to North America. And another large group died. So the totals range as high as 16 or 18 million, because more slaves were brought to Brazil than anywhere else. They were brought throughout South America and Central America by the tribes of Europe. This has happened before. We saw the Holocaust in Germany, where people were held in concentration camps, which turned into death camps. And just so you know, what is a death camp? Webster says a death camp is a concentration camp in which large number of prisoners are systematically killed. So there's a difference between a concentration camp and a death camp. A death camp is a particular type of concentration camp. Look it up in a dictionary. You don't believe me? Look it up. Thankfully, I had a father who made me look up words in the dictionary I didn't know. Or I thought I knew, but I didn't. So we have that. Another 6 to 10 million people died in the Congo on the farms where they were held as slaves by Belgium under King Leopold II. Nobody talks about that. There have been lots of mass murders conducted by the tribes of Europe against people of color, of African and North American descent in particular. This has got to stop. We have got to rise up and fight these people by any means necessary. The Trump administration must stop. If we have to sit in the streets like we did in the early 60s and make the wheels of government stop rolling because we're in their way, we have to do it. We have to get these criminals out of office. It's the only way. We can't sit back and go on as if business is okay. and let things go on as normal, as too many Americans are doing right now. This is on our heads. History is going to hold us responsible and ask, where were you? Where was I while this was going on? We have an obligation to stop it. We have an obligation to stop it now. There's no excuse. Don't tell me that, oh, if we impeach Trump, he'll get reelected. The way the Democrats are handling it, he's going to get reelected because we've given people no reason to vote against him, no reason to get out and vote in the first place, because the Democrats are doing nothing. The Democrats are doing nothing. It's disgraceful. And I'm going to end it here. I'm going to make this video as short as I possibly can. But right now, we must resist, resist, resist. Resistance is not futile. We must save the children. If you're a human being, if you have any decency in you, you will fight to stop these crimes being committed against the children. Please hit the like button if you like this video. If you want to hear more of my content, please subscribe once again to the Armwood Opinion channel. Have a good day, but please do something about what's going on. Contact your representatives. Get out in the streets and demonstrate. There are being demonstrations organized about this issue. We must resist this criminal syndicate which is running the United States right now. This is our moral duty. Don't call yourself a Christian and you're not out there trying to stop us because you're a hypocrite. Remember what James said, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is said. Not everyone who saith, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Do it by action. Don't be like these hypocritical evangelicals. Get out there and do the right thing. Fight these people. I'm out of here. Resistance is not futile.